just like to invite you to please stand as I open with a silent prayer. I'll invite you to please open your hymnals to hymn number 256, 256, as we begin this afternoon's youth meeting. And I'd like to invite us to really pay attention to the lyrics as we open this meeting, and that it may be something that we really reflect on as we sing together. What's that? Okay. 256, I was sinking deep in sin. Before we kneel to open, I just want to share a verse found in Luke 15, which we'll be looking at today, and verse number 7. And it says, from the NIV, I tell you that in the same way there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. So with this in mind, we'll kneel to open, and I'll invite Barnaby to please open for us in prayer.
Dear God, thank you for this lovely day today. Thank you that we could all come here together and fellowship with each other and gain a blessing from what you've inspired us to hear. Help us to have a fantastic young people's meeting and a great day today. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Happy Sabbath once again. It's good to see so many faces here. It's not often that I get to be here in Clayfield, and most of the time that I am able to be here, there's far less seats being taken up. So it's really nice to see that everyone's made the effort to be here today. This young people's meeting is, as most should be, targeted at the youth. I would like to think, for the sake of getting older, that I am the person being targeted by this meeting, but I realise as well that I'm at a point in life where, although I'm young, I am not that young anymore. I'm not up to date with what's going on in the cool side of things, and I realise as well that the life experience that I have, which isn't necessarily that advanced, can be of use to people who are coming up after me. And so today we'll be talking about what it means ultimately for there to be joy in heaven over a sinner who repents. And we'll be looking at the context around that verse in terms of being a young person living in the world that we live in today. I wanted to start off, just to set the scene, with a short story. It's a true story. It's a recent story. It spans from mid-October to very early November of 2021. A 4-year-old Australian girl, Leo Smith, was abducted from a campsite in Western Australia. Thankfully, she was found alive and well on the 3rd of November after 18 days of heavy searching. Police, obviously with the help of the public, and witnesses and people who might have seen things, they found a suspect, raided the home, and arrested a man over her abduction. Her safe recovery after 18 days was described as extremely rare and received widespread news coverage and social media attention, both nationally and internationally. The kidnapper was convicted and sentenced to 13.5 years in prison. Funnily enough, it was also compared, at the time of this happening, it was very heavily used to compare it to the way that the police have reacted toward disappearances of Indigenous children, which is a whole other can of worms, but it really brought about the conversation about what it means to be an Indigenous person in Australia and how much value the system places on your life. Now, this is a very serious thing to happen for anybody. anyone will tell you that losing a child is one of the worst things that you could experience in life. No matter how many kids you have, right? You could have 20 kids, but losing one of them is going to break you. It's a heartwarming story because the girl was found alive. She was well, and she was reunited with her family. And what I wanted to bring out from this today was the fact that we are all lost. Now this goes to everyone, obviously targeting the youth, but we are all lost, no matter how old you are. How old's the oldest person in this room right now? Let's find out. So how old's Nana? 71. Anyone older than 71? She doesn't want to put it. She was spending too much money on candles. All right, so you're 71 years old. How many years have you spent in the church or living a Christian life?
In the church? Just living a Christian life. Since I was 18.
Okay, so Cecilia is 71 years old. And she became a Christian at the age of 18, so she was fairly young. So she has spent how long? 53 years living a Christian life. Now, does that mean that you are automatically going to heaven?
Going to heaven?
That's very honest.
That's my aim, but that's right.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's definitely a topic that can be discussed, right? But we can all agree that you can make one choice today that could change the course of your future, whether it's short-term or long-term or eternal, right? God willing, we are saved. Christ has died for us and we are saved. We just need to accept the gift, right? But we can choose at any point to reject the gift or leave it aside, right? You can. We can all be sitting here today and tomorrow you might be murdering someone. Is that accepting the gift of salvation? No. So we are blessed in the sense that we are sitting here today, right? God is a part of our lives. And that's actually a miracle. That's a miracle. For anyone in my generation or younger to have an understanding of who God is in the world that we live in today is purely thanks to the miracle working of God. Thanks to the way that He has blessed our parents and the environment around us to foster an understanding and a desire to be here. And even if the desire isn't there, I know that as a teenager, you don't always want to be sitting here in church. You don't always want to participate. You don't always feel like this is something that you want to do. But I praise the Lord that I was here, that I was made to be involved, and that despite many things really discouraging me along the way, that I know that God has an end plan for me and that He is using me and will use me for something great. So there was a song that I heard probably about, I don't know, I must have been about 18 or 19. And I really liked the song. It's definitely not a church song. It's called Search Party by a person, I'm not going to name the person. The lyrics go like this. It says, meet me out in Paris, I'll be on the elevator, halfway up the Eiffel Tower, halfway up to space. Lately, I've been dreaming about the desert. We'll be riding through the thunder on a midnight train. And baby, wouldn't you say these are the best of our days? Chorus goes, they're going to be out looking for us all night. And they got a search party with their big flashlights. And they're searching high, searching low, searching super wide. Ghetto choppers in the sky. And they're flying super high. They're going to be out looking for us all night. And then it just repeats the chorus. What's the running theme here? What's the song about? What's it talking about? Ruben?
Two people doing their own thing. People are out there searching for you.
Mm-hmm. So it's two people. It could be two friends. It could be a couple. It could be anyone. Yeah, baby. It could be a mother and child. They're running away from everything around them. It could be the system, the politics. It could be their parents' rules. It could be school. They're running away from the things that are holding them down, and they're just going to go and enjoy traveling and the adventure of life, right? And part of the thrill, part of the adrenaline rush is that you've got all these people chasing you, looking for you, because they're worried, right? Now, is this what our life might be like in a spiritual sense? Is it possible that we are living under these conditions spiritually? I think it definitely is possible. I think it's possible that even though we know and love God or the idea of God, that we might want to do our own thing, especially between the ages of 11 and 18, 19. Depending on who you are, it can carry over into your early 20s. But we don't realize, and it may not be part of the thrill of it for us, that there is a search party out there looking for us. And it's not a physical search party. We don't have people looking for us all night, staying up all night. We don't have a search party with flashlights. They're not searching high or low. We don't have helicopters in the sky. But we have our mothers praying. We've got our fathers praying over us. We've got, or we'd like to think that the church is involved as well in reaching out to the person who may not have an interest in being a part of this. And we like to think that there is a search party in our community, within this family we're all sitting here today. But I would say that although I'm sure there are prayers for the youth and for the direction that the youth are taking, I would argue that there's not enough being done in terms of the search party, in terms of finding that 13-year-old where they are, starting high school, being exposed to all sorts of things in academia and all sorts of things on the playground. However, we cannot discredit the work that God does, which brings me back to the point I made before, that me standing here today is purely by a miracle. And I'm going to be honest, I don't always feel like coming to church. Right? It's not a struggle you only go through in your teens. Once you get older, you realize that it's beneficial. It does you good. But I am very grateful to God for Him being out there searching for me, speaking to my heart, speaking to my mother's heart to pray for me, speaking to everyone sitting here who I'm sure at some point or another has mentioned my name in their prayers. God is the ultimate search party. And so, as we move on, I want to have a quick analysis about the chapter of Luke 15, about a couple of different things that have been lost and what that means. But before we go into that, we've got a short chat by Daniela. So, actually, sorry, before that, we'll have the Korean musical item. My bad, that was requested to come up first, so I should remember that. So we'll have the Korean group come up after that we'll have Daniela. Now, I've selected a few different people to come up throughout the course of the meeting and give a quick chat about some advice that they'd give to their 12-year-old self. If they could go back and have a chat with their preteen self, what things would you say? What things would you encourage yourself to do in the upcoming years? So, Korean group, musical item.
Sorry that I became Korean at this time. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away home. I hang along to stay. My Lord calls me, He calls me by the thunder. The trumpet sound within my soul. I hang along to stay. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away home. I hang along to stay. Green trees are bending, poor sinners stands a trembling. Poor sinners stands a trembling. The trumpet sound, the trumpet sound, the trumpet sound, the trumpet sound, within my soul. I ain't got long to stay here. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus. Steal away, steal away home. I ain't got long to stay here. Steal away home.
Thank you for sharing the musical talent. Now we'll have Daniela come forward and tell us what advice she'd give to her 12-year-old self.
Okay, what would I tell my 12-year-old self? I put down some notes. I'd say mostly be curious and ask lots of questions. So I think for me that would have looked like, finding out why things are, like not just accepting them a lot of the time. And I think that's something that you can do, any time in life. That would include reading. People might not agree, but reading more versions of the Bible than just the KJV. Because I think as a 12-year-old, it's easier to understand perhaps other versions so much. And that Jesus' love is simple. People make it complicated. That's it.
Thank you for sharing. Definitely, there are some things that are just hard to comprehend when you're young. And definitely if the wording is a little bit outdated or not common in the current lexicon of how we speak English, then it may be even harder. So we'll firstly have a look at the parable of the lost sheep. We're looking at Luke 15 verses 3 to 7 for anybody that wants to follow along. We're not going to read it all. I would encourage you to open up to it so that you know what we're talking about. But it's pretty basic. Like we all know the parable of the lost sheep. We have a shepherd who has 100 sheep. One of the sheep gets lost and he leaves the 99 remaining sheep for a period of time until he finds the one missing sheep, brings it back and celebrates with his friends. What I wanted to draw from that were a few different points. So the first point that I noticed in the parable of the lost sheep is that the sheep was originally from the same herd as the other 99 sheep, but it lost its way. Right? This isn't a wild sheep that the shepherd spotted and decided, hey, why not just add some more sheep to the herd? This is an actual item of property that belonged to the shepherd that was lost. Okay? Point number 2, the sheep, being a sheep, probably didn't realize that it was lost. Okay? To begin with, a sheep wouldn't know that it has lost its way. But eventually, it would have realized that something was wrong. Maybe not in the same rational cognitive way that we would as a human, but it would still comprehend that things are different. All the other sheep are gone, the shepherd is gone, the terrain is a little unfamiliar, and if we want to take it a cliche step further, We might even like to imagine it like in all the children's books, pictures that we've seen where the sheep is stuck in the bush and can't get out until the shepherd comes to save it. Point number 3, the shepherd focused specifically on the lost sheep until it was found. It literally says he left the other 99 in the wild, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the fold. Okay, so he's left them in a safe place.
No, he left them in the wilderness.
I thought it said wilderness.
That's that. He left the 99 in the wilderness. That's in verse 4.
Okay.
But he put them in the fold. He didn't leave them.
No, he left them in the wilderness in verse 4.
Regardless of where he left them, I did think that it said wilderness. Regardless of where he left them though, he spent 110% of his effort on finding the one lost sheep. Now, how easy would it be? This isn't one of 2 sheep. He's not losing 50% of his property. This is 1 out of 100 sheep. It doesn't specify whether it was the one that produced the most wool, or the one that produced the most milk, or the one that was the one male that was producing all of the babies. It doesn't give us any details about the value of the specific sheep that was lost, right? It just tells us that the shepherd left the other 99 and focused all of his attention on finding the lost sheep until it was found. Okay? Because it's pretty easy to go, all right, these seem pretty safe without my presence. I'm going to go have a quick look at the top of this hill. If I don't see it in the observable landscape, then I'm just going to call it, I've got 99 others.
I think Benji, where it actually, I know you were focused on that wilderness thing, but if he's leaving those 99 women, it actually is a risk. And it shows the risk. Jesus was willing to take a risk.
Thank you for pointing that out.
He could have lost more, that's right.
Trekking, so now having a look at the search itself, you'd assume that this wilderness isn't necessarily easy terrain to walk through, okay? It could be, it might just be rolling hills, but regardless, like it might seem easy, but you don't know what's under the grass. There could be snakes, there could be rocks, there could be ditches. You might be climbing over, up a cliff face to get a better view. Whatever the circumstances are, the search itself, the hiking, the trekking, the amount of water required to take on the journey requires effort. And another thing is that the longer you spend searching, so you could spend 5 minutes climbing to the top of the hill to have a quick scan, or you could spend 5 hours, you could spend 3 days searching for this sheep. And every second of time that you spend searching adds value to the potential loss if you don't find the sheep. If you spend 5 minutes looking, you've lost 5 minutes. If you spend you've lost 5 minutes and a sheep. If you spend a week looking, you've lost a week plus a sheep. Why would you risk losing so much? Finding the sheep is specifically mentioned to be cause for celebration. Because if we have a look, I think it's verse 7, the shepherd comes back with a sheep, calls his friends, and celebrates the finding of the lost sheep, which implies that the definite loss of this piece of property would have resulted in mourning. Okay, so having lost the sheep would have been a cause of sadness and grief. Now, what do we know? Obviously, this is young people's meeting, so I'm going to target that back row in front of the sound room. What do we know about the parable of the lost sheep? Who is the shepherd? Who is the sheep? Okay. Thank you. It's interesting to point out further that sheep are typically associated with being followers, okay? Now, I didn't realize, because I grew up in church, being a follower of Christ is a good thing, right? Until I started to get a bit older, and I realized that the term follower is actually not used in a good light in any other context other than the Christian walk. Being a follower means you don't think for yourself. It means you do not have the ability to take care of yourself because you need a leader to guide you. And if we think of a sheep as an animal and not as a metaphor for ourselves, if we think of a sheep as an animal, it wouldn't survive without guidance, without care. But it's interesting that the sheep is used to symbolize ourselves in those characteristics, follower characteristics, which imply that we feel the need for God's direction. Now, we're going to pause that there before we carry into the next parable, and I'll invite Peter up the front, and he's going to give us his own advice for his 12-year-old self. Now, keep in mind, I said 12 years old, but it's the 12-year-old that's looking at the next 5-6 years of their life as something that might be scary. It's a tough couple of years in terms of growing and maturing. And when you're 12, 18 years old seems really far away, but it's not. And Peter's 30 now, so let's go.
Yeah, comes whether you like it or not. Who's 12? Who's around 12? Yeah. Anybody?
Steph?
Ah, you're 12. Okay. I just need to visualize my 12-year-old self.
Anyone 13?
13. Wow.
14? Oh, LJ's 13.
Okay, here we go.
14? 15. Couple of hands. 4, 15, 16. No, I don't think 17. No, you're 19, aren't you? 20? A bit older. Okay. Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
You can speak.
Okay, that was good. So for the 12-year-old self me, you gotta understand the age, the maturity and the age doesn't go together. It's not always the same. It's difference, from culture to culture, from where you live, even in the same country. So, for example, I grew up in a very small region, a very small countryside, and there, 12-year-old me probably would have the same maturity as 9-year-old. Carefree. All that he does is just run around and do all the stupid things, going into the sand hill, sneaking into a construction site, playing around. For that age, so to that to myself who's a 12-year-old, I honestly wouldn't have much to advise, because at the time, you know, when you're a kid, what do? You just go play, you know.
Play.
That's what they're supposed to do, you know. That's the whole purpose of their life. You go to them and talk about the meaning of life and talk about you know, future planning, or doesn't work because simply they are not mature enough. But I do remember in from the spirit of prophecy, it tells us that Jesus, he tried a lot of things. Why?
Because he expected it.
He expected a lot, you know. As a child, that's one thing I think I can tell him. You gotta try a lot of things. You think that's curious? Go try it. And even for the 15 years old me, 16 years old me, probably that would be my same advice. Or even someone who's even much more older than that. So we think, as a member of a church, so as a teenager, we often feel that we are restricted, right? We can't do this or we can't do that. We gotta go to church on Sabbath, and we gotta sit still. We are so inactive. But you know, think about Jesus when he was a youth. How do you picture his life? Still and very inactive, boring, huh? No.
He started learning carpentry.
He didn't start his missionary till he was 30, right? Like official ministry, but up until then, his life, I'm sure he lived it to the fullest. He, like Spirit of Prophecy tells us, he lived it to the fullest. He tried a lot of things. I don't know, but it tells us that he was good at everything, but to get good as a human being, you gotta fail a lot too, right? He wouldn't have been a perfect carpenter from the start. To know how to use tools, you know, drills for us, he wouldn't have had the drills, but yeah, he always did the best he could, and he did try a lot of things because he expected a lot, and that is a blessing that we all possess, especially to the young people. You have a lot of potentials that you don't even realize, and being a Christian doesn't restrict us. No, it doesn't. But it actually nourishes us, our talent, a lot further than we ever could. You know, there are a lot of people, a lot of youth out there, you know, with problems, you know, mental problems, or sometimes they're doing a lot of, you know, drugs, and there are so many trends in this world that I don't really understand among the teenagers nowadays, you know. I don't know, I read some a while ago that they now buy some kind of chemical cleaner or something and they try it for fun. I don't know. There's so many trends, okay? So I'm not saying try those things, right? Being in the church, being in the being a Christian means that you have the safe boundary. If you're not safe, you cannot try things. We often forget how blessed we are to be born in a country where we can worship God freely and where we can try and become what we want, right? Try as much as we like Australia, even in my country, Korea, South Korea. But think if you were born in North Korea or in the third world somewhere, you wouldn't have so much hope or expectations, right? Because, you know, just day-to-day living is your struggle. Is already giving you so much stress, and you have to invest all you have into just living another day. But what is being a Christian? Being a Christian means that you know for sure that you are safe in His arms and that you are provided for what you need. Because you have the Father who provides you and supports you, everything that you need, that's the reason we can try, you know? That's the reason we can go forward and then do a lot of things, you know? And I think that's one thing we have to let our children, the growing up teenagers, understand that they're not restricted. Maybe sometimes we have to look back to ourselves. Are we telling them, you know, and then are we restricting their ways of living? Not because, you know, that's what the Bible says, but that's what, as a parent, I dream of them to be. We have to be very careful of that. God never designed us to be the same, right? God made God put creativity in this world, diversity, all that for us to take, you know. No one was to have the same job or the same responsibility. Everyone was to have their own things. And that is provided, that is only provided in the true safety, in the true safety that only God provides, and in the everlasting life that God provides. And once we understand that, and once the children and the growing teenagers understand that, I think that will truly open up their potential and will enable them to go forward. You know, as a teenager, when I was 17 and 6, I don't know, from 17 to 20, I tell you, I was a very depressed kid. This boy was so depressed, and so was he was a super introvert. At that age, something, a few events in life happened to him, and he was so locked in himself, you know. If that guy sees me speaking to you at the age of 30, like I do now, he wouldn't believe it. But I tell you, another thing I want to tell you is, even though you are in such state, or if you see someone in such state, don't underestimate the potential that boy or girl has. And believe in God. Like he said, like we are learning this morning, he will never lose one sheep. Because what does it say in the Bible? John chapter 6, verse 39. And this is the Father's will which has sent me, that of all which he has given me, I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. So when we know that we are safe like that, and when we know that the person that I see who seems to be hopeless, who doesn't seem to be achieving anything, like just staying at home, you know, maybe just watching TVs or whatever he likes to do, just contained and not really doing anything as a Christian, or not even as a Christian, you still believe in him because God has not given up on him or her. So that's the reason why we don't give up. Not because we can do something, but God still has plans for him.
Amen.
Yeah. So when we said the 99, he could have left in the desert, but they're not lost. Yeah, they've never been lost. So that's the same and goes for all of us. And yeah, sorry I took too long.
No, that's fine.
2 to 3 minutes. Anyway, I hope we all remember that and go forward and achieve a lot of things as free as we are.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I really like that you made mention of the fact that it's important to parent teens to realize that they're not restricted. And I know that's hard, definitely.
We have boundaries. God gives us boundaries. But within those boundaries, there's infinitesimal power in what we can do within those boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries for purpose. But whatever we do within those boundaries, we can go anywhere we want to go.
Thank you. So going back to, actually before we do that, I might break it up a bit with a musical item. So I'll invite the Akiatan family forward to share some more music with us. And after that, we'll have a look at the next parable. Are they here? Oh, yeah.
Actually, looking to Jesus as our great shepherd, we could have a look at him hanging upon the cross. He could have called 10,000 angels to release him, or he can even do it by himself. But he did not do it, because it's the only way he can. That's the one way he can give his life and redeem and save us. So the song that we're gonna play today is, the title is 10,000 Angels.
guys. So back to Luke chapter 15, and now we'll have a quick analysis of verses 8 to 10, which cover the parable of the lost coin. Now, again, we're not going to read the verses. Please follow along if you so desire, but we know the parable. So we know that there was a lady who had 10 coins of some metal or other. She loses one, and she can't find it. So what does she do? She starts to clean the house. She lifts up the carpets. She sweeps the floors. She searches high and low until she finds the coin. And we always seem to end the story at having found the item. But that's not where it actually ends, because the Bible or Jesus told the story as she found the coin, called her friends, and celebrated the finding of the lost coin. Now, a couple of points to consider on this parable. And please remember, and I might make mention of it as we go, it is not the same as the parable of the lost sheep for a few different reasons. One, the coin was originally in the woman's possession, so very similar situation there. It's not an extra coin that she found on her way to the shops. It's a coin that was originally in her possession, that was misplaced, that fell out, that so happened to be lost. Point number 2, the coin doesn't know that it's lost. Similar to the sheep, with the difference being that the coin doesn't actually know who it belongs to, or that it even belongs to anyone. It's just a coin. It's an inanimate, irrational object. The woman focused specifically on the lost coin until it was found. Does that ring a bell? The effort that she went to in lighting the home, retracing her steps, cleaning the place, requires work. Now, again, this isn't, we won't go into the consensus about how much it was worth, because that's irrelevant. It was 1/10 of her property that she lost. Now, whether that was a lot or a small amount, 1/10, 10% isn't gonna, it will affect you, but it's not gonna decimate your living expenses, right? She could have just assumed it was lost and gone on with her business, but she went to all the work of finding it. And similarly, the longer she spent looking for it, the more she had to lose in the time spent and the value of the coin. The finding of the coin is celebrated, which implies that the loss would have brought mourning, or if not mourning and tears, then at least sadness and maybe some hardship. Incidentally, back to the second point, the coin doesn't know that it's been found or who it now belongs to, let alone that it's in the same hands that it was last in before it was lost. So, who does the woman represent? The woman who was looking for the lost coin, who does she represent? Same thing, Jesus, God, the search party. Who does the coin represent? The coin represents us, again. But a different class or category of us. I don't think we fall under this category. It really depends on your personal experience at the end of the day. But the coin, in not knowing that it's been lost, in not knowing that it belongs to somebody, in not knowing that it was created for a purpose, would represent more accurately the kind of person that might be navigating through life without a sense of direction, without a sense of where they came from, without necessarily the sense of identity and belonging somewhere. And it could be a lot more accurately categorized as somebody who may not have grown up in the church, who may not have an understanding of the plan of salvation, or somebody who goes through life floating from church to church, who may go through many metaphorical hands, right? And perhaps never find what they're looking for, and never find a sense of, this is where I belong. But God is looking for them. This could represent people on the spectrum. This could represent people with mental disorders, or the lack of mental capacity to rationalize and to understand things. But God is looking out for them. He's looking for them. And in this story, in the parable of the lost coin, where the coin doesn't know what's going on behind the scenes, the coin is found. I saw a hand go up.
Yeah, it's interesting, the sheep is lost on the mountain, the coin is lost in the house. So actually, one interpretation on this is actually that it's lost inside the church. Because
Definitely.
It's the woman's inheritance, and it's lost, and you can have people lost in a church with no direction. As well, so.
Definitely. Thanks for pointing that out. Which is why I mentioned it really depends on your personal experience. Because we might be sitting here today, we might be tired, we might want to go home, we might want to nap. Me too, don't worry, it's not just you. But we might not be fully present, mentally or spiritually, and we might be lost. So that is the parable of the lost coin. Now, I'm not going to tell you where you are categorized, because that's up to you. But the sheep didn't know it was lost, but definitely needed direction. The coin didn't know it was lost, and didn't know it needed direction, but there was still somebody looking out for that coin. That may be you. Maybe you don't realize that there's more to life. Maybe it looks bleak, but someone's looking for you. At this point, I'll invite Ashley forward to have a quick chat to her younger self, and she'll be followed by Michaela, and then we'll have a quiz by Marcus before we finalize with the last parable of Luke 15.
Okay, well, I guess I'm still youngish, so my teens were relatively close in my mind. There's a lot of advice I could have given my younger self, but the main one that I would have told my 12-year-old self, which would have helped me out more in my later teens, early 20s, is to not live your life to please others. And by that I mean, don't base your choices and your decisions on what you think other people expect from you or want from you, or what you think that they think you should do with your life. And that's because the only person who completely 100% understands all of your personal circumstances is God. You honestly don't even understand your own circumstances sometimes. And so it's important to, especially in your younger years, learn how to set boundaries, whether it's with school friends, even church people, or anyone else that you meet. Learn how to stand up for yourself, and be comfortable with saying no. Because I think that's definitely an issue I experienced in my younger days. I just wanted to please everyone, make everyone happy, make sure everyone liked me, and it definitely did not benefit me in any way. So that would be my advice.
So, when you said yes to me, what was that? That's right. Thanks for sharing. I resonate with the boundary setting. Definitely learning to say or to stand your ground is something that I could have done sooner. So I think that's good advice for a teenager. Michaela will now come forward to share her experience.
So, I don't know what my experience is, but this is
thoughts.
what I would tell the teenagers as not a teenager anymore. I would say, no, these are my two things, super quick. One, make good friends. Very important. And also, because like, you might still be friends with them from when you're 12, you might still have the same friends when you're 50. I don't know, I'm 50 yet. But also, you might not, and that's also okay. Make good friends makes life so much easier, makes decision making so much easier, makes everything easier. And my second one, we're talking about lost things. So this is what I was thinking. This is my Jesus advice. If, I don't know, still come to church even if you don't feel like it. No, I'm still going. So, if even, sometimes you don't really know what's going on in your spiritual life, all my 15-year-olds at the back, I'm talking to you. Yeah, Bundy? Talking to you. Feel? Anyway, sorry, I was just trying to get their attention. That's what I think, is you might not feel like you know what's going on with God. You might feel like you don't even really have a relationship with God, but you can still come to church. Even if it's just to see your friends, that's actually okay. Because while you're trying, and while you're still connected into God's community, He's still trying all the time. So, yeah, always come and say hi to us.
Thank you. It's definitely an important point. A lot of the time, especially in the earlier teens, before we're driving or have the generic freedom not to come to church, and I say that loosely because even after we learn to drive, we're still under our parents' roofs most of the time, and we're forced to come to church. Now, I know that sounds bad, but that's just the way it is. And as parents, I'm not against that, because you want your kids to be in a safe environment. You want them to be exposed as much as possible to the gospel. But I like what you said about coming to church even if you don't feel like it, because it is helpful. It is something that even if it's just to see friends, you'd like to think that they're good friends, they're a good influence, and God is working through all of that. So thanks for sharing. I'll now invite Marcus forward to, I suppose, he's got a quiz for us, but it's a Kahoot. He's ready to go. Cool. All right, so Marcus has a Kahoot's quiz for us. It is not related to today's topic, so don't stress too much about if you weren't listening, but please do listen following on.
So I have prepared a quiz on Kahoot, and for those who are not familiar with it, it's an online game where you go to that website, kahoot.it, and you'll see a screen like that. It'll ask you to put a game pin in, which will come up on the projector when I plug my laptop in. You've got to go into it with your phone, laptop or tablet. And then when you sign into the, put the game pin in, it'll ask you to put your name in. I know people like to put fancy characters, but it's actually a lot more fun if you know who put the wrong answer. So if you use your first name, that would be awesome. Unless you're super shy and you feel like you'll get everything wrong, that's fine. Anonymity is okay too. It's kahoot.com, .it, not .com. It has to be kahoot.it.
Type Kahoot into Google.
Yes.
If you've got the app, there's also a Kahoot app.
Oh yes, I don't have the Kahoot app. And for those who are joining us on the live stream at home, you can join in the live stream and you can do the quiz live because it's on the internet, it's everywhere. But you may not hear all the laughter and carry on that might be here as people get answers wrong. So you will be firstly confronted with the previous screen that was up there, and then you put in that game pin 6114302. 6114302, and lots of names already up there. What's that? Player limit reached, yeah, because I wasn't sure about that. This is the first time I've done this. So it seems that we are... Yes, that's what I'm just talking about. It seems that there is a player limit, which I didn't know about because you don't know until you try. So we will play with whoever is there.
There should be space for one more.
Someone opted out.
Time travel and time traveler too, are they the same person?
I don't know.
Probably Barnaby and
You got to buy a membership.
Join us team.
Yeah.
I'll get off.
Not really. I can't do it now. I will take note, and the next time I will have it so that we can all do it together. I didn't know that there was a player limit.
Go onto that. I think Ricardo has a teacher access code, which is a paid for thing. So it's
Oh.
you just need the game pin.
No, you can't go in because there's already too many people in. I don't know how to transfer the quiz to the thing that Ricardo has.
You just use the game pin.
Oh, you still use the same game pin in his login? Okay. If he knows what his login is. But then I don't know how to do that side of it. Any ideas?
I think it's the one up at the top. I don't know if it's that game pin, but
I'd have to leave the whole thing.
Did you ever see Kahoot's Hero?
Unless...
yeah. Do you pay for the Kahoot?
No, I just use my school thing. Oh no, actually, Tia Jazz did it for me. Oh, no. What?
Yeah, it should be .com if you're logging in. Kahoot.com.
Just Kahoot.com.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the top one. But it might... Oh yeah. It's automatically logged me in.
Do you know your password? Because I just signed out.
Yeah, I know what my password is. Yeah.
No, not reset password.
We could just do 11 people on teams.
Yeah, why can't we just do 11 people?
Well, how about we do 11 and then we can do, maybe if others are still here afterwards, we can do it again with the remainder.
There is another item that can.
No, this is for the answers.
Oh yeah, that's true. That wouldn't work.
Marcus, couldn't we do it in turns and then you
Yes, that doesn't work.
Yes, but I don't know how to put the game onto another login. If it's in the same, like you create.
I'm just going to suggest that this is a young people's meeting and it should be aimed for people between 12 and 20 as the first people to log in.
Yes.
And if there's space left over, then other people can log in.
That's a good suggestion. So I would suggest that anyone over the age of 19 log out and allow younger ones to log in first. And the complexity of the quiz is more suited to young people. If Randy's doing the quiz, he will just get everything right very easy and it's too easy for him. Sorry, Randy.
What's the age cutoff? 20.
20.
20.
Yeah, 20.
Okay.
Who's Danny?
Oh, is it for 20-year-olds? I know,
Goodbye. I got rid of you. Okay, who else is going in? Okay, there's only 5 in there now, so 5 more can come in. I didn't know. Oh, Sister Machina, the youngest. Ah, Melissa. Melissa signed in as Deborah.
Okay, so it's just 11.
There's meant to be 11 people. Why are we kicking them all out?
Kicking out someone who was logging in as someone else.
I think we need to start.
Okay. All right, we're going to start in 30 seconds. If you're logging in, log in. 5, 6, 7. 3 more.
7 minutes.
3 more logins.
bring it up to 20.
One more. Okay.
Very good. All right. So each, the way the quiz works, each quiz, for those who haven't done it before maybe everyone has done it before. Each quiz will come up on the projector and it will give 4 possible answers. Then you will press on your phone the answer that you believe that it is by the colour. And then after everyone has answered, then you'll find out whether you're right or not. And it's 20 seconds per quiz, per question. Who said, be sure your sin will find you out? Isaiah, Jesus, Moses or Paul?
6, 5 seconds, 4 seconds. 2 more people got to look at answering.
Very good. The correct answer is Moses. 1 person got it right. Nora got it right. Who's Nora?
Melissa.
Ah, good on you, Melissa. All right. Which of these men were never called righteous, perfect, or holy? Noah, Daniel, Job, or Jesus? Which of these men were never called righteous, perfect, or holy? The correct answer is Daniel. What is the last book of the Old Testament? Revelation, Daniel, Zechariah, or Malachi? Two people answered Revelation. All right. Who said it? Do violence to no man. Jesus, Peter, John the Baptist, or Jeremiah? John the Baptist. Melissa, you're doing well. Who wrote, "The Lord is on my side, I will not fear"? Matthew? Not who said it, who wrote it? Matthew, David, Paul, or Peter? The question asks who wrote it. And the correct answer is David. How many Old Testament prophecies did Jesus fulfill? Over 500, 121, about 75, or over 250? The correct answer, over 250. When I looked that up, there's ranging reports. Some people said at least 250, some people said possibly up to 400, but no one said over 400, so that's why I put the answers in like that. What is the shortest book in the Old Testament? 3 John, Joel, Obadiah, or Ruth? Or you have 9 seconds to look it up if you're keen. Very good. What did Abraham sacrifice on Mount Moriah? His son, Isaac, a sheep, a kid goat, or a ram? And one person answered Isaac. Very well. Nora, you've been bumped down. In the image that Nebuchadnezzar made, the legs were made of what material? Gold, silver, bronze, or iron? The correct answer is gold. The question asks, in the image that Nebuchadnezzar made, the legs were made of gold. A few got it wrong. Who was the one person that answered gold out of curiosity? Someone answered gold. Only one said gold. That's right. Even though Irene called it out. No one listened to her. All right. A few more. The shortest verse, Jesus wept, is about which event? Suffering in Gethsemane, the death of John the Baptist, the death of Lazarus, seeing the multitude without a shepherd. No, let them get it wrong. They're not going to listen anyway. All right. Oh, most people got the death of Lazarus. Okay. In what year was the King James Bible first published? For those that want to use only King James Bible, you should get this easily right. 1692, 1611, 1798 or 1844? 1611 is the right answer. Paul was shipwrecked onto which island? Crete, Cyprus, Sicily or Malta? Paul says he was shipwrecked a couple of times, but we only know about one event, I think. Malta is the right answer. Most people got that. Which New Testament book covers the story of Jesus' ascension into heaven? Matthew, Luke, Acts or John? The correct answer is Acts. No one got Acts. Come on, guys. What's going on? Nope. No one got it. They're dependent on you calling it out, Irene.
I said it very quietly.
All right.
I'm swearing to Mark.
Nora got third place. Thanks, Melissa, for helping Nora out. Who is the smiley face? Anonymous. All right, we'll leave the anonymous be anonymous. Thank you, everyone, for playing along.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Marcus, for waking up the congregation. I'll now invite Ruben forward for a quick chat, 2-minute chat with his preteen self, and then we'll have a quick analysis of the parable of the prodigal son before we close.
I need the microphone because they might not hear me at the back. Oh, okay. Well, that's pointless. Okay, so I'm not going to talk to my 12-year-old self. I'm going to talk to my 12 to 15-year-old self. So 15-year-olds, listen up. I'm going to start off by saying I've got 4 kids. Right now I've got 4 kids. So if you want to know detail, go and talk to one of my kids because I've told them everything that I wanted to tell me. Alright, so I'm not going to give you a whole lot of detail here. First I'm going to say, life is about risk and reward. There are some things that you can risk. Your life is not one of them. Don't do anything that will put your life in jeopardy. Now by that I don't just mean your life and dying. I'm talking about eternal life, but I'm also talking about don't put anything in your life that's going to put you in jeopardy like tattoos or piercings. Don't risk jumping off something that's too high where you might break your neck or your back. It ain't worth it. You have one life. The second thing I'm going to say to myself and to young people, the Bible is real. God is real. Jesus said he's coming again. That's real. He is coming again. Now here's the thing. He's not coming, or he may not come in the next 5 or 10 years. Don't plan your life as if he's going to come in 5 or 10 years' time and then you've got no plan for after that. He may not come until you're 56, which is where I am now. So don't plan your life as if Jesus is coming in 5 years' time. And when you realise that, don't live your life as if he's never coming, because then you'll have regrets. When you do have regrets, there's a reset button. And that's the beautiful thing about the Bible and the gospel, is that you can be born again.
Amen.
You can be born again. Like, you can mess up your life. I don't want you to mess up your life. You can mess up your life, but you can be born again. You can reset. Don't ever forget that. And that's what I would tell my 12-year-old son.
Thank you for sharing. I can't say I related to your experience because you're obviously about 30 years ahead of me in terms of perspective on life, but that's why I wanted to have you up, to have that a bit of extra life experience to speak towards the younger you. As we open our Bibles back to Luke 15, the parable of the prodigal son is a massive jump from it's a lost sheep that was found and celebrated. It's a lost coin that was found and celebrated. We now, without skipping a beat, Jesus jumps into this parable that is a lot more nuanced. There's a lot more. I'll just wait for everyone. There's a lot more in the parable of the prodigal son that requires an understanding of life and relationships and an understanding of who you are or who you want to be. So again, we're not going to read it. There's 20 verses in this parable, but to paraphrase, there's a fairly wealthy man with 2 sons. The youngest wants to start his own experience, so he grabs his inheritance within the lifetime of his father, which is unheard of, and he moves away from home. He spends all the money, realizes that he's got nothing else other than the only thing that he could do in order to better his life is to work as a servant for his father. So he travels back home. Once he gets home, the father welcomes him with open arms, celebrates his return. However, the older brother who did stay home is unhappy about the treatment that his younger brother has received. There's a bit of back and forth there, and ultimately the father pacifies the older brother and rebukes him for his attitude towards the younger brother. Now, a couple of points to draw from this parable. The son originally enjoyed his life and identified with the father's home and culture. Now, this is a running theme in these 3 parables. In the sheep having been, from the original property. The coin was from the original property. I'll just ask the back row to please be quiet. The son chose to completely divorce himself from the father, inheritance included. Now this is where the theme starts to change, because in the other 2 parables, the sheep got lost by accident, the coin got lost by accident, but in the 3rd parable, the person, we're talking about an actual person with thoughts, feelings, emotions, and they choose to walk away. Once he spends all his money, he realizes that he's messed things up. And what I wanted to draw from that is that admitting mistakes and seeking reconciliation takes a lot of effort. especially within families that are very big on the pride. If you as a parent have never apologized to your child, I would suggest we make moves towards that. If you as a child have never apologized to your parent, I would suggest we start making moves towards that. If there are things that have happened in the family that have never been talked about, I would strongly suggest that they start getting talked about. It takes a lot of effort and it's going to hurt, but it's part of making things better. The father did not, in this case, channel any effort towards finding his son, which is, again, a huge difference from the other two parables where the shepherd and the woman actively searched high and low for their lost property. But we're dealing with humanity now. This is a story about people, and the father understood that him going out to find his son was going to be, even if he found him, it was going to be useless because the son didn't want to be there. However, like was mentioned, there's plenty of evidence that indicates that he definitely focused some attention to waiting for the son. And we know that because he saw the boy or young man from a long way away. So it would indicate that he's been looking out for the return of his son. The father didn't judge, condemn, or punish the son for his choices. And if anything, he acted in the opposite direction by celebrating the return. And it obviously goes without saying that the temporary loss of his son naturally caused immense grief, like I would imagine, and is a natural response to anybody having lost their child for any period of time. We go back to the first story I related about the 4-year-old girl who was abducted and then found alive 2.5 weeks later. Her parents would have been going through hell. They probably didn't sleep for that whole period of time because they're worried sick about the loss of their child. And obviously the long-term or eternal loss of that child would have caused immense grief and pain. Which is why the return of his son is cause to be celebrated. Which is why the return of his son is not cause to go, aha, I knew you'd be back, or where's the money that I gave you, or why are your clothes broken, or X. And it wasn't, it wasn't cause for punishment, it was cause for celebration that the son had returned. The brother who stayed home, however, definitely did judge the brother, and his attitude showed that he would have preferred that his brother was condemned and punished for his lifestyle choices, and it would seem that he had a superiority complex in the safety of his routine, of his lifestyle, which was approved and encouraged by the father, right? Now this is where things, and we really need to pay close attention to this. So I just want to make sure everyone's listening, because not only do we have the theme of loss and return and reconciliation and celebration for having found what has been, or the return of something that's been lost, but we have, on the converse, we have the attitude of disapproval for what has returned. Okay? There's a sense of a superiority over the person who left and came back. Now, the father in this story naturally represents God. The son who left is representative of wounded characteristics So, for example, they probably grew up in church or in the faith, and they've severed the relationship with their environment due to one of two reasons, or potentially both. One, a desire to taste another lifestyle, which is very relatable if you're a teenager right now who is sitting here today, right now at 4:23 p.m. wishing this meeting was over. You don't want to be here. You want to go out somewhere else. And that might have driven the prodigal son to leave. Or the other reason is the dysfunction of the family. If the brother was not excited to see his younger brother come home, what does that tell you about their relationship? There must have been jealousy, there must have been contention, there must have been probably comparison, there must have been competition. And so now we move on to the older brother. The older brother represents those who remain in the faith or in the house of the Father, in the safety of the parameters that have been mentioned today. I've lost my... Yep, so the brother represents those who have remained in the faith and who live comfortably in their routine lifestyle by looking down on those who don't share that lifestyle. Now, the theme of this afternoon's Young People's Meeting was the theme of loss, or being lost. Being lost as a teenager. And there are so many things that we could go into and about what that means. And if things were different, I'd love to have this meeting with just teenagers because I'd probably talk more. But being lost doesn't mean it's over. If anything, being lost means that there's a search party out for you. And it's not going to stop until you're found, right? Now, if you've chosen to walk away, granted, your parents are still praying for you, the church is still praying for you. There may still be influences in your life that are trying to reach out to you. But the beauty of creation, I think the most beautiful thing about creation was not the man and the woman created in the image of God, and it was not the mountains, and it was not a rational mind even, which is incredible. But I think the pivotal thing is the ability to choose. And like I said before, sometimes things look dark. Sometimes things look like maybe you shouldn't be here anymore. And maybe some of us have gone through situations or periods where we think that things would be better off for our family and friends if we weren't here anymore. Or maybe we feel like things are better when we harm ourselves. And that's not the case, right? Things are better when we go through the difficulty specifically of going back to God. Because no matter how far you've gone or how long you've been away for, He's waiting. And the best time to come home is now, like as soon as possible. He's waiting to celebrate your return, to cover you with the best clothes, to feed you, to nourish you, and to make you welcome, make you feel at home. I would encourage my own pre to late teen self, many other things that were mentioned, but I think above all that, to come back sooner. And okay, you've all seen me here every week. I've never stopped coming to church. But the battle of, the spiritual warfare is a battle of the mind. And my mind has been this way and that way for many years. And I wish I'd come back sooner for greater strength in God, right? For a greater sense of identity in Christ, for a greater sense of purpose in what to do with my life. And now I'm 28 years old, and obviously it's never too late, but I look back and I go, I could have done this 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. And I'm having a baby now, and I feel like I'm not equipped spiritually to be a parent because I've been floating around maybe a lot like a baby. And so obviously that's a natural motivator for me to knuckle down. But I would encourage my younger self and anyone in that position who might feel like it's all over, like there's no tomorrow, that there is a tomorrow, and it's best experienced in the arms of Christ. So with that, we'll close by singing our final song, 221, Amazing Grace, first and last verse. Oh yeah. While we prepare for that, I'll collect the offering.
Cara and Briley, aren't they doing an item?
Oh, they were too. Yeah, okay. Thank you. to please pray for us if he's here. Is he? Is he?
No, he's not here yet.
Oh, okay. LJ then.
Dear God, thank you for this lovely Sabbath day that you've given us, Lord. Lord, please help us to learn something from this lesson and please help us to spread that around the world, Lord. Thank you for everything I've done for us, Lord. For giving us the Holy Spirit and for this lovely day. Once again, in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everyone. Sorry it went a little bit longer than expected, but you're free to go now. Thank you.